Welcome to Tell Me a Ghost Story, the late night call-in podcast where we delve into the world of the supernatural and explore the eerie and unexplained. I'm your host, Michelle Newman. This podcast features true stories from our callers that will send shivers down your spine and leave you questioning the existence of the afterlife. So grab a cozy blanket, turn down the lights.
I've driven up and down the R5 now so many times. It's routine. I have my spots that I stop. I know my route. I know the gas stations I stop at, and I know like the hotel that I try to stay at every time. And I have a routine. It's, I know I'm making good time when I make it to Sacramento in one day. There's like a certain amount of things, and I usually try and stay in Ashland because I try to do California all in one day, but it's always kind of hard. And this time in particular, I tried to do California in one day, and I got very tired, and I had a late start on the drive, and I had decided I was going to stop for the night, and I pulled off at some hotel. It was just like a stop on the 5. It was like it had it was just one of those random stops that just has like a hotel and a gas station, and it was like outside of Sacramento, and I don't remember if it was before or after. It's right like around Gilroy, that garlic place. Her place that has the garlic festival and the garlic ice cream and stuff. But anyway, so it's like California farm country. So there's like, there's like a faint smell of cows in the air. Yeah, so anyway, I check into this like Motel 6. And, it's already weird anyway because I'm a female. I was a young female then, and like I was just driving up to Portland, so it's, it can be, you gotta be aware when you're on the road by yourself. So anyway, I'm checking in, and, everything's fine. It's kind of a lower grade Motel 6. It's just kind of dodgy, kind of in a weird area where it's the only thing around. But, whatever. I was only going to be there for the night. So anyway, I go into the room, and I bring my suitcase in, or I'm just like getting ready for bed. And, that night I don't know, it was just weird. It felt like I was the only one staying there too. So it was just very empty, very desolate. So, I'm getting ready for bed. The room's really run down, and I'm just feeling off. So I get into bed. Across from me, there's like a chair, and then there's the credenza that the TV's on and stuff like that, all across on the wall, like typical hotel room. And I turn out the light, and I am trying to go to bed, and you know what? I probably dozed off, but I probably dozed off. I probably did. And then I look across, but in the dream state or in my awake state, I look across at that chair that was across the room, and there's a man sitting at, and he had Gallard mustache. He had on kind of baggy pants and a baggy t-shirt and sweatshirt. He kind of looked like a Mexican guy, and he was sitting across, like with both hands on the chair arms, and his, wide legs just like slouching in the chair. But yeah, just a guy watching me. Just a guy. I mean, it was pretty scary. And I didn't know what to do, so I yelled, "Mom, Mom, 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 Mom." And when I woke up or looked away, I turned the light on and there was no man there. But I woke myself up by yelling, "Mom, Mom, 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 help me, Mom, help me." My mom's alive, so, it's not like her spirit was there to protect me, but that's all I could think of to do. And so, yeah, the rest of the night I slept with the light on because there was no way I was going to chance that encounter again. And in the morning, I cleared out of that hotel super early and got on the road and got up to Portland. So that's my ghost story. Or my weird dream story.
Thank you to our anonymous caller from Portland. You called it your ghost story or a weird dream, like you're not quite sure which category it belongs in. And I think that uncertainty is actually the most honest thing you can say about an experience like that. But the detail I keep coming back to is what she did when she saw him. She didn't scream. She didn't grab her phone. She didn't run out the door. She yelled for her mother. "Mom, Mom, Mom, help me, Mom," over and over until she woke herself up. There is something deeply human about that response, and I don't think it's accidental. Calling your mother in a moment of genuine terror is the most primal and universal human instinct we have. Researchers who have studied distress across cultures have found that the cry for a maternal figure appears in moments of extreme fear regardless of age, regardless of whether the mother is nearby, and regardless of whether that person would consciously think to call her. It bypasses everything rational and goes straight to the oldest part of the brain, the part that learned before language that the safest thing in the world was Mom.
My name is Chase from Mesa, Arizona. In 2008, I lived in Salina, Kansas, which is a small college town, where I lived with my brother and his roommates were on the baseball team. I was not on the baseball team. I was just a freeloader that lived there after high school. My roommate was taking a shower one day in the basement, which was the only place that we had a shower. Upstairs, we just had a bathtub, no shower. So in the basement, he was showering while I was sleeping in the room next door. Now, the basement was a big, giant open room with just some, particle board walls, some little siding, or what do they call it, the wood fake paneling. So you could hear everything. As he was showering and I was sleeping, I heard a woman's voice say, "Hey, do you know me?" And my roommate Travis yelled, "Hey, what was that?" Or what'd you say? And I went, I didn't say anything. And he's like, "Oh, okay." And then about 30 seconds after that, we hear again, "Hey, do you know me?" And at that point, my roommate turned off the shower and said, "Chase, what are you doing?" And I told him I was trying to sleep, but I could hear what he heard. And we had no explanation. Our next door neighbors were, surprisingly, it was an apartment full of high school kids, but it was 10:30 in the morning and all those kids were at high school. So there was no need for anyone to be asking, "Hey, do you know me?" or knocking on the door, because no one was there. So there was no explanation. And the only windows we had were tiny little basement windows. And if we heard anything, it was not from outside, that's for sure. And it was all boys in this house, and only the two of us were there. That's it. That's a spooky ghost story. There's more, but That's the real weird one. Not even the scariest one, but the real weird one. So maybe I'll call back.
Thank you, Chase from Mesa, Arizona. Hey, do you know me? It's such a specific and strange thing for a disembodied voice to say. Not get out, not help me, not any of the things hauntings are supposed to say or sound like. Just, hey, do you know me? Asked twice in a row. As if whatever was asking it was genuinely waiting for an answer and genuinely wanted one.
Hey, Michelle. This is David in Roosevelt, Texas. I'm originally from San Antonio, also in Texas, and I used to live in an apartment complex way back in old days, and from 1987 to 1991, everything was relatively calm there. Things began to pick up about like March 91 when I saw an apparition of an old woman next to my bed. I woke up on a Saturday morning, saw an old woman looking down at me, smiling. She had like a glow about her. Beautiful for an old lady, you know. And her hair was tied back in a bun. She had a blue dress on. It looked like 1900s style dress with a brooch and a collar. And she was just watching me and smiling. And I closed my eyes thinking, okay, I'm still dreaming, you know. I just woke up, you know. And I'm thinking, okay, I'm gonna wake up, open up my eyes, she's gonna be gone. Nope. I opened up my eyes and she was still there. Still watching me. And it began to sink into me, oh my God, I'm looking at a ghost here. And the thing is, I wasn't scared. I just stared at her and I eventually fell back to sleep. I can't explain that. Why would I fall back to sleep? But I did. She didn't seem to be threatening or anything. But, you know, things began to escalate from then on, and I didn't tell my parents about it until my dad came in one day from sitting on the steps outside, and he told me that saw a young one, in a white dress on the top of the steps. And so he moved out of the way of the steps, so she could come down the steps, you know, he didn't want to be in the way. He looked back up to say hi to her, and she was gone. And he told me that, you know what, you got something crazy, but I saw this. And so I told him what I saw a few days before that. I finally said, you know what, I'm going to tell you what I saw. Yeah, but mine was an old woman. And my mom at first was a disbeliever, but she began to explain things too. She would like feel my voice calling her name, even though I wasn't. Oh, I too would hear my mother call me, even though she was not around. And I'd be in the restroom, like taking a shower, and I'd hear a knock at the bathroom door, even though no one else in the apartment. Or there'll be a silhouette of someone moving past the shower curtain while I was in the shower. And it was scary. Lights would turn on and off by themselves sometimes in my room. There'll be orbs of light. They would appear near my hamster cages. And it was creepy, you know, things. My dog would be scared all of a sudden. He would want to make the bed for no apparent reason. But the weirdest thing is, I felt someone poking me on my back. Somebody was poking me on my back, even though I was alone in the restroom. You know, it seemed to be the restroom and my bedroom seemed to be the center of a lot of that activity. And I don't know why. Weird stuff always happened. Voices, you know, like I say, voices and stuff like that. And eventually we moved out of there. We had to move out of there because it was causing some water issues too. We have everything so fixed on a regular basis, and yet it's leaking water. It would leak water more and more and more. You know, flooded the half of the apartment one time. But we moved out. We had to, you know.
Thank you, David from San Antonio, Texas. There's so much in this call that I keep returning to. The old woman in the 1900s dress watching from your bedside, the father who stepped aside on the stairs to let the young woman in white pass, the voices calling a name from a room that no one was in. And all through that, the family is just trying to make sense of what's happening in their apartment, and eventually they just simply have to leave. Now, I want to say something here, and I want to make it very clear that I'm not saying this to dismiss what our caller experienced, because I believe him completely. But he mentioned it at the end of his call, that the apartment had had persistent water leaks that kept getting worse and worse, no matter how much time they spent fixing them. And I think that detail deserves more attention. Chronic water leaks in an enclosed living space can lead to significant mold growth behind walls and under floors that are invisible to the naked eye. And certain types of mold, particularly black mold, when inhaled over time, can genuinely cause a wide variety of neurological symptoms. Auditory hallucinations, visual disturbances, the sensation of being touched when no one's there, disorientation, mood changes, depression, difficulty distinguishing between waking and sleeping states. These are all documented medical effects of toxic mold exposure, and they map remarkably closely onto what our caller and his family experienced in the apartment over several years. And I'm not saying that's what it was. I'm saying it's worth knowing, especially if you are living somewhere with persistent, unexplained water damage and you also are experiencing things you cannot explain. Get the mold test. Rule it out. And if the mold comes back clean and the experiences continue, then you have your answer. Our caller's family eventually moved out, and I hope wherever they went next was dry and quiet.
Hey, this is Cindy Catcher from Haunted Avon, Indiana, over the Haunted Avon Bridge. I got one last story for you. It's called The Child's Disembodied Hand That Crawled Out of the Child's Grave. Well, anyway, we were in a cemetery in Seymour, Indiana. They had a lot of children's graves there because of some kind of flu epidemic. I think it had been the Spanish flu epidemic. But anyway, they had a lot of children's graves there. And this was back in 1987. We were exploring the cemetery. We had no relatives in that cemetery, by the way. We were just curious. And suddenly, Brian saw it. He said, "Mom, look." And so we all looked, and there was a ghostly, disembodied child's hand crawling up out of the grave. I don't know how it got through the casket, but anyway, it was crawling as lifelike, and it raised its fingers as if to detect where it was going. And my mom said, "Run." So we all ran back to the car. What have we seen that night? This is Cindy Catherine. Thank you for listening.
Thank you, Cindy, from Haunted Avon, Indiana. I want to spend a moment on the cemetery itself because the history behind it matters. Before COVID, the Spanish flu epidemic of 1918 to 1919 was one of the deadliest events in recorded human history. It infected an estimated 500 million people worldwide, roughly a third of the global population at the time. And what made it uniquely devastating was who it killed. Unlike most flu strains, which are most dangerous to the very old and the very young, the 1918 flu killed young adults and children in huge numbers. Communities across the country were burying children faster than they could process grief, and many small-town cemeteries from that period have sections dedicated entirely to the young lives lost in those 2 years. Seymour, Indiana was one of those communities. The section of that cemetery where Cindy and her family were walking in 1987 held the concentrated grief of an entire town that had lost its children to something it could not understand or stop. And the spirit that belongs to that little hand was saying, "I'm here. Don't forget what happened." That's all we have this week, folks. Do you have a ghost story? Call 701-484-2666. That's 701-484-2666. Or go to tellmeaghoststory.com and leave your story there. Thank you to all the callers who left messages this week. I'm your host, Michelle Newman, signing off. See you next week.
I'm Harvey Guillen, and this is Killer Stories. Every Monday, I'm cutting the lights and telling you a bedtime story. Except these stories are all real. We're talking brazen heists, devastating cons, serial murders, and cases that defy tidy categories. So join me for new episodes of Killer Stories with Harvey Guillen every Monday.